Let's go ahead and start with an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Put your name on it.
Bow your head, please. Heavenly Father, we gather here today to give you thanks for all your blessings, both seen and unseen, realized or not. Thank you for every breath, as each breath is a gift. Thank you for allowing each of us to work for the common good and the best interest of those we represent. Your guidance each day shows us how best to be insightful in our intentions, our visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Working together, holding your hand, Father God, to derive a unified spirit for those in attendance, engaging in thoughtful dialogue with respectful understanding, wisdom, and humility. Thank you for teaching me to show love and respect towards everyone, just as you show me in my daily walk. Should I fall short in the love and respect for others, I thank you in advance for the forgiveness you show through those I harm. I give you thanks and praise in advance. In the name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the flag, with allegiance to the practice, one state, under God, one indivisible. All right, we messed up. We busted. Okay, do we have any comments from the public? Obviously not. Okay, item number 4, do we have any adjustment requests?
Unfortunately, I've got two of them for you all today. First one is a large estate lot in Grogan's Point. It's account number 449982-02. They had a leak at their had a main leak at the meter, from the meter to the house. They were not in town when it happened. They do have repairs and pictures. The gallons in question is 171,000 gallons. Their average is 6. So it would be an adjustment of 165,000 gallons or a credit to their account of $1,102.40. It does meet the requirements for the adjustment, and we are recommending.
Okay,
Said 1,000.
1102.48.
does that software have any backup to kind of alert us or for you when something like that happens?
It'll alert the customer and if they've signed up for WaterSmart.
Right. But what about you? I mean,
It won't, it would be going off day and night. It would not alert us unless it's 1 million gallons or something really, really high.
okay.
Yeah, otherwise we'd just be chasing our tails trying to get all the
Through
alerts.
them, but there's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot.
Yeah.
Did they have
May
any
not be
smart
relevant.
credit one?
They do. Yeah.
They
They
did.
were not in town. That's what.
Oh, but you get that on your phone.
They called, yeah, they got on their phone, they called their neighbor to try to help. He couldn't turn it on, and they finally called us. We actually got it off.
How many days was it going off?
Went off in one day. Went off started on the 18th and they repaired it.
$1,000 worth of water in one day?
Yes. In the price of water.
Wow.
Yeah, 170,000 gallons.
Okay, yeah.
It's possible.
All right, do we need to vote it?
This is a new one, right? It's not on the list of,
It's a new one, yeah.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, so it's February.
Yeah.
The next one is account number, it's also a large lot. It's in Sterling Ridge though. Account number 491050-01. Also a leak at the main line, sprinkler. This was a sprinkler line leak, not a house line leak. It was during the freeze in December. You got a high bill for December and January and finally figured out it was a sprinkler leaking. Gallons in question is 199,000. His average is 2,000. Very, very low user. So it's an adjustment of 197,000 for a credit of 1311.21. He's got his repair bills as well. It also does meet the requirements for approval, and we are recommending approval.
But he apparently didn't have water smart.
He did not. He does now. Yeah, I don't know why his sprinkler, I think it was a sprinkler backflow that was leaking.
Yeah.
Just didn't know it. So, that recommendation, if you approve that, we have.
Okay. Well, do I hear a motion to accept those requests for adjustment?
I'll offer the motion to accept the judgments.
Okay. Okay, is there discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passed unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, consent agenda. Does anyone want anything pulled? The consent,
Full set. Tax collection report.
anything else?
No questions. I'd like clarification on 9, consider an act on approving attendance and expenses for District of Woodland key business.
Okay, so you want to pull that too?
Not pull it. I'd like to have just an explanation, expansion of that.
Just a matter of protocol, and I don't mean to interrupt, but that's the right thing to do is just pull it and then talk
Okay.
about it.
All right, great. Thank you.
Okay, so the consent agenda, items 5 through 9, minus items 7 and 9. Do I have a motion?
Oh,
Make that.
Okay, in a second.
second.
Okay, discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the consent agenda minus the amendments? Aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. So let's go back to item number 7, receive the tax collector's report. Do you have questions?
Yes, the question I had is, still outstanding of $227,000. Is that typical at this time of year, or was there something extraordinary about that? Typical.
Actually, it's a little bit better.
But this is
Last year.
Yeah.
collections.
If you see the next line, it says, percent of collections for 21 as of February 28 and 22. You were at 96%, a little over last year. This year you're at 97.
So,
That all you had, Dave?
that's,
Okay. Do we need to approve the item number 7 in its individuality? Okay, I need a motion to accept.
Motion.
Okay, a second.
second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 7 is accepted. Item 9, consider an act on approving the attendance and expenses for the district and or the Woodlands Water Trustee business.
I didn't know what that meant. Well, someone should explain it to me. That's all.
Can help with that, Eric Peterson can probably help as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where, the directors that have attended conferences, meetings, workshops with the San Jacinto River Authority during the month prior to this meeting, this is where you collectively approve reimbursing or paying that per diem for that activity to the director.
Okay.
And then each director will fill out a sheet that you've probably all seen.
Right.
It goes to Shelley, but this is the agenda where that is formally
Right.
accepted
Okay.
and approved.
So there's really no change.
We have it on the agenda every month.
Oh.
Yeah.
And the only.
It's put under the consent agenda for efficiency purposes.
Got it.
Years ago, it was a separate agenda item, but it's been moved.
Thank you. Sorry for taking up time.
No, no.
Okay. Well, we need to accept that one. I need a motion for 9.
Motion to accept.
Okay, a second.
Second.
Okay, is there discussion? Okay, all those in favor of item 9, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 9 is approved. Item 10, receive the San Jacinto River Authority Woodlands Division report.
Good afternoon, Summer Havastik here today. The first item I'd like to talk about is our monthly operating report. There was a discrepancy in the surface water number in the one in your packet. The corrected report is the stapled copy. I handed out as you were coming into the meeting. All other items in the report are consistent with what was in your packet. In addition to that handout, I did give a handout with updates on the topics listed in your agenda regarding Bear Branch Dam, the drainage project, the low foot flow vault, and the monitoring report. In terms of the infrastructure funding, there is no update at this time to share with you all. We're still working on pursuing those funds. We are continuing to coordinate with Crenshaw's office for the Bear Branch Dam spillway replacement. The drainage project is underway, and we are working on the modeling at this point for the feasibility and alternative study. The vault has been received, and we're out to get quotes on installing the vault. We hopefully will have that installed in April. And it is on schedule and within budget. And then lastly, the monitoring report, I believe there might have been an email that was sent, and I need to get clarification on that. But if you guys have any questions about anything that was provided in your packet, you can please let me know, and I'll be happy to answer those for you.
George, for you, we talked about this the other day. This analysis here, it compared to what you did, the good work you did, reinforces what you said. This is a side, so you've
That's where I got the numbers.
yeah, and I'm saying it's excellent. So it kind of begs the question, when we bring up the strategic plan again, this needs to come out along with your report, because it's, I think, a good way for us to look at it. Yeah.
I missed the email on this
Right,
Bear Branch monitoring
I need
report.
to follow up on that. It might have been something internal that I missed. So that's why I want to check on that and get back with you on that one.
Okay.
I can provide a little clarification and what you mean regarding, I think you were coming to.
George's report,
Yeah,
I'm gonna I shouldn't put words in your mouth. You can explain it, what you did. It's your work and your conclusion.
I took the spreadsheet out of my folder, so I don't have a copy to give to you. And what I did was I totaled up, or I built up for the last 2 years, a table listing the reported flow for each wastewater plant, and totaled it up for the flow going to basically each plant, as though if you were running maximum capacity. And so I was trying to get a feel for what the capacity needed to be
For the future plans.
for the.
well, there's a difference in demand versus capacity. So you're saying you just look to see what the,
I was trying to understand how big the plant needed to be.
yeah,
So for example, does wastewater plant one need to be 7.8 million gallons per day when you're running somewhere around 2.9?
yeah, I would just advise that the way that they analyze capacity at a treatment plant is based on peak flow and after rain events.
Right.
And
So
this
they-
is not, it's not gonna show up in these numbers.
So what they're doing is the next phase of the project, they're going to evaluate the needed capacity.
Yes, I would just advise that what you're seeing here is not obviously right. This is half of what the capacity is at the plant. So you want to know where those numbers come from.
Sure.
But yeah, but I would advise that's not how this permitted amount isn't necessarily going to correlate exactly.
So what I
to the
found
reported.
was that, when you look at wastewater plant two, the capacity of the plant matches the demand pretty well. Where plant,
And in relation to like the conveyance systems and what's coming from.
right,
customers, okay.
it looks like it's appropriately sized. Where plant one looks like, to me, is oversized. And they were calculating, I talked to Don Sarek, and he was telling me how he did the original calculations for that plant. And it was based on a per single family dwelling equivalent unit of, what was it, 270 gallons per day. And actually, we're flowing a lot less than that.
So
So I worked
hopefully,
with Don and others to do that spreadsheet.
hopefully kind of now what we use models. And we
Sure.
allow the models, and so we don't have to do so much.
And that's
paperwork.
exactly what we want, is to be based on actual data.
Yeah, so you're
And
actually
for
using
the-
a model that's calibrated to what's actually happening. So I was just advised that there's like a lot more that goes into that, so,
Okay, good.
What you're saying is, since peak flow would be storm flow, right?
they have to analyze a peak number on the regular average daily flow. The leakiness of the pipes per se, they have to account for the leakiness. Allowing storm flow to come in. You don't want to treat storm flow. We have projects where we're addressing storm flow coming into sanitary. But you do have to account for it, and you do calibrate the model to make sure that's what's showing up is what you're seeing out in the field. It's a little bit harder with wastewater than water systems because they're not pressurized.
So how does storm flow enter the wastewater system?
It overflows, so all your manholes, you've got the little holes in the manholes, so overflow in the little holes in the manholes, you have to have holes in the manholes, to vent
Also
the gases.
leaks, major.
Yeah, and then you got, we're the woodlands, right? So we've got trees everywhere, so trees and roots and cracks, cause it in the pipes, and groundwater gets in it that way too.
So when the flow, the drainage waters gets above the manifold, it's gonna flow into those holes.
Yeah, it just all overland flow, just like it'll just flow into those manholes.
Down
No question.
our street, there's examples where there's a crack in the sewer pipe, and there's rainwater flows, and eventually, it etches out under the sidewalks, under the trail, and gets to be a big hole. It's actually can be pretty significant flow.
But we're gonna fix that.
And
Yeah,
then
you can't fix the manhole. The manholes have to stay vented.
Right.
But yeah, there are doing projects to fix the leakiness.
We've got a robust, what we call I&I, inflow and infiltration analysis and repair for your mud and several others.
But you do also, sorry, I'm spilling my water all over me. You do also have to analyze, like if everybody happens to flush
Same time.
at the same time and how long it's going to take. Or big events at the pavilion, all that usage coming in. So you have to take into account those peaks when you're designing these wastewater treatment plants.
one interesting thing that the project team has for a wastewater plant one's design is a 1 million-gallon tank to take up some of that surge. So the idea is you don't have to build this plant quite as big, because
You do not size your treatment plants to handle that peak rainwater flow, right? Because you're gonna be sizing them so big and you're treating rainwater. So
Right.
you do analyze it to a point of how you can manage the flow as it's coming in. I don't want to talk about the basin right now, but
that's good. I just mentioned-
Okay,
George, on page 56 of the packet is the email that I mentioned earlier. And it's the weekly update report of the monitoring that we do at Bear Brand.
Oh, I saw that. It's it.
And if there's no questions, I do have one more item. We would like to thank you, Mr. George, for serving on the strategic plan
Oh, I
committee.
got a plaque.
You do. You dedicated a year and a lot of time.
This way.
Thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
thank you, Summer.
Are you doing the Birch Creek?
Yeah, we want.
The Spring Creek
I-
detention study.
You are.
Okay.
I was looking at.
Item 11.
Let me flip to these charts here.
So I know that they're, talks of holding another meeting here in the Woodlands, to go over that, a town hall similar to what they held, earlier in the year. I believe they're working to coordinate a date for that. And once we have that date, we'd be able to share it with you guys. But I think,
April or early May.
meeting,
Right now, they need to coordinate with the township to try to get use their venue. So I think we exchanged emails on that, but it's being put together.
Spring Creek.
Spring Creek Detention Study.
So this is, these 6 seats come out of about 40 slide PowerPoint. And what I thought I'd do is talk about the 2 concepts that are being discussed, so. So at the Spring Creek Detention, they're looking at 2 pieces of property. And one is Birch Creek. And both of these are in the county north of us. And this is basically a housing development being planned. And house developments on each side of the creek. And so what they're really talking about is having setbacks that would allow for a dry drainage area. This first page of that is they have a modeling system, and actually have a couple of them. And so what they've done is we had a first guess model, and then they ran it through the modeling system. You can kind of see on page 1 of 6, the technical detail, the dam spillway elevation, 250 feet. And what this study did was it took the previous one and shrunk it down and otherwise reduced the cost of it. And with this optimized area, basically we get a flood effect benefit of about 0.45 feet. So that's why I wanted to point that out. And you can see, if you can see the color, you have the orange line, that's where we began, and the green line is where we ended up. And so that's the technical characteristics of our Birch Creek.
What is WSDL?
It's basically, it's the calculation of how much improvement you have in flood. I forget what WSEL, but it's the height of the height of the, what is it?
Your water surface
Right.
elevation.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you go to the second page, actually 3 of 6, or 2 of 6, excuse me. And what that shows you is a map of the homes that would be affected by implementing this project. So on 2 of 6, the yellows are Montgomery County, the greens are Harris County. And if you did Birch Creek alone, that's what it would be. And I didn't put the combination of 2 because the way this is working is we're doing the study and we're basically getting in line for funding. So the studies are being done, and they've been paid for by previous mud boards. And it's a split up, and so they have the 2 pieces of property that they're looking at. And you can see where, this is obviously you can see Bear Branch. And, we're in the Bear Branch area, then it goes south. So there are really a lot of people who would benefit of this, but probably aren't participating in the study. I think that's one of the issues we need to discuss as a group about getting, all the contributors to it. Right now, the effort is to identify the 2 areas and to be able to submit a model. So this, the Birch Creek, you can see it's in a 500-year floodplain event. Would affect 8,668 homes. So that's the Birch Creek. And
So the dam, is it right here?
the dam in this Birch Creek, see the purples?
Right,
You have a lake up there. It's right up there.
which
It's right up here.
the dam is up here,
Yeah,
not here.
it's up there.
Up here.
So what you have is a housing development, and coming to that creek, and just like we have drainage areas set aside like Spindletop, right? And so that's the one, and this discussion has been held with the developers and kind of swapping land back and forth and thoughts there. So that's probably the more likely of the two that you make progress. And the second one, and the next page is Birch Creek. And you can see the cost optimized, 32 million, environmental cost. When it comes down, the total cost is 86 million. This structure in place, and it has a cost benefit ratio of $2.03. That means if FEMA, if you get the federal government, state, put in $1, you get $2 back in flood protection. Okay. And I'll tell you, these models, I played with the models with HVAC in the transportation area. You really have to be good at modeling. Meaning you almost need to, my opinion is to go back and look at the substructure in the programming to understand really in transportation, slight changes can cause that model to go. And I've mentioned that to him, and I need to probably mention it again. So there's the 86 million in cost. And that's the most likely, I think, from what I've listened to, most likely proposed that would go forward. The second one is Walnut Creek.
Is this location feasible, or is this one of those locations that's generally not gonna happen?
I think at this point, way I would look at it is we have two locations. Okay, I think this is the more likely location, but I think we have funding, and I think you have to get in line, right? Get in line with these agencies so we have a chance of getting the project approved. And the developers here seem more cooperative than the other side. So the next one is Walnut Creek, and that's really a Rice University solar farm. And again, you can see the spillway elevation is 256. The resource reduction is 0.47 feet. And I can just say that, Rice is kind of saying, go away. So there's less cooperation. I don't know if that'll evolve over time, but I'm sure the River Authority is trying to get better contacts within Rice to move the discussions forward. And I really don't know how you have a big solar, farm. Can you elevate the solar panels enough so the water flows under it? There's been some discussion about that. So that's Walnut Creek. And if you go to page 5, you can see a very similar pattern. You see Walnut Creek in the purple up here. That's where the neighborhood is. You come down Walnut Creek and you can see you have houses in, Montgomery County, not in the Woodlands, that are affected by this project, meaning effective in a positive way. And you can kind of look at the Bear Branch and then southern Montgomery County. So there should be a lot of interest, in the southern part of the county for these projects. And you can see the 500 is 8672. Now there's another set of maps. I show you the combined, but I didn't want to spend time talking about it. It's not a big change. And so I think most likely the Birch will come, but Walnut, they're still doing the studies. They still have work to do. And then if you flip the page to 6 out of 6, you can see the dam cost is 37 million. In this one, the total cost is $93 million. And then the benefit cost ratio is $1.88. So the other one's actually a little better deal, but they both are above 1. So, the catches, which we don't know, is that unlike HVAC with roads, that's a fairly well-developed process. And here, I would say from the observation I had, there's a number of players, but, like in Houston, is a contest. It's a beauty contest. You put your projects in, they rank them all in the top. I'll tell you right now, 186 projects, 35 were chosen. I think in the state of Texas, when it comes to this, it's more of an immature process. And I think the object is to get your horses in the race. And then, see what the rest of the state does for the available dollars. And normally what happens is an 80-20 ratio, meaning 80% federal, state, 20% local match. But the local match is not necessarily MUDs. There's a lot of players here. And so that, it's not like, MUD 46 is gonna have to bear, 20% of this cost. There's a lot of players, so, but that's where we're at. They want to have meetings. And be honest, what I encourage them to do is, nail some dates down and advertise them. Tom and I have talked about the Village Association. I really think Grover's Mill down there in our area would probably, should be much more interested in this than, let's say, Sterling Ridge. Because there's not a lot in Sterling Ridge, but so we need to make sure that, as we look at our district, that Grover's Mill area participates.
Not to forget, our district goes right down.
Right down here.
Yeah,
And that was affected on the.
it's right here.
Harvey flood. So,
Yeah,
yeah. So,
Jim can tell you about that.
right. So, this is why, we should be concerned about this because we have a part of the district that's in that, higher potential area to flood. So that's kind of a brief summary of the 30 pages of PowerPoint.
What's the ideal cost benefit ratio? Do you want it as high as possible?
Obviously, be 100 would be great, but the catch is,
About,
well, I'll tell you one. I'll tell you in transportation projects, if you're like 0.99, they don't even consider you. You have to be minimally above a 1. And then I saw with those things go up, as low as 3 something and up to, 100. So we that's why I said I think they need to practice running the models and see what, decision process you can do to improve the outcome. But there's just not enough. This game of the horse race, competing against other people in the state, there's not like a corral of all these projects have been put in. It's a much more ill-defined process. And I think the sooner you get in and the big political consideration and getting the all state senators and state reps to kick into this process, the county commissioners, Harris County's participating.
yes.
And so the more the merrier and the sooner the better.
All right, any more questions? All right. Do we need to approve that? Okay. Let's go to item 12, General Manager's Report.
Right, yes. Good afternoon. For those I haven't met, my name is Eric Peterson, I'm with GM for Woodlands Water. I started on February 6th and getting up to speed. So, had a couple of things to update you on. First item is to update you on Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District has appointed their new member in the vacant position. That gentleman's name is Gary Dent and is a resident of Mud 1. Next item is to just point out in the report at the very end, there's a couple inserts for the next couple of AWD events. One is the spring seminar on April 13th, evening of April 13th. Topic's going to be Texas housing trends. And then the other insert is for the summer conference, which is June 22nd through 24th. And early bird registration. If you've never been to one of the conferences, there's sometimes pretty good seminars and different content that they put out during the conference that you might be interested in. But once the early bird goes away, the cost starts going up pretty quick. So just a reminder on those things.
We haven't a copy of the agenda yet.
For the
The
no, that's being finalized right now. I'm actually on the program committee for AWD, so there's a meeting tomorrow to talk about that. Actually, so it's being developed right now. I think all but a couple of the topics have been identified, but it won't be completed for probably next couple of weeks, I think. So,
yeah, I wish we could have that agenda as we decide whether we want to go or not.
it'll be posted generally because they've got to get it in the journal, and the journal gets put out about a month or so before the conference. So the spring journal,
I
so.
see that's the deadline was, you said, March 29th.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be posted before then. I don't think. The final agenda. But as soon as I get that, I can surely share you with that. Okay. Couple updates, from the trustee meeting. The strategic plan, as you may know, was voted on and approved unanimously. So a lot of hard work by everyone involved and got that over the finish line, last week. Also wanted to update everyone on the One Water Task Force. Township did have a planning meeting last week and identified, or discussed the idea of resurrecting that task force, and it was met with some positivity. So it looks like they are going to bring it before the township board to vote on that, to resurrect the One Water Task Force. So as that gets redeveloped and reconstituted, we'll be involved in that. And we'll try to help guide them best we can. And then last thing I had was just an update on the Public Education Committee met last week to discuss and go over the first quarter strategic communication plan and all of the various communication that we've been putting out. And there's an item in the back of your packet that gives some examples of some of the content that we've been putting out. Some of this is digital, some of it's print. And we'll be moving into Q2 topic changes to water quality. And so that'll be kind of part of the focus going into the Q2. And then finally, the PEC met also to discuss, in light of the strategic plan being approved, there certainly is a recognition that there's going to need to be a pretty robust public outreach campaign that's going to be needed for the community. And so we're partnering with SDRA to start to put together the framework of that, put the content together, and really start building that campaign, because it's going to be well needed to explain to the residents what's about to come with all of the various infrastructure improvements over the next 11 years.
And to add that, before we had a one person rep to the stakeholders meeting. That stakeholder meeting is going now, but there's going to be multiple all MUD director meetings. So I've heard 3 mentioned. So in the future, instead of one person going, we'll all be invited.
That's right.
To sit through that meeting.
Okay, anything else? All right, thank you very much.
Couple of questions for the general manager report. Page 63 of your packet talked about projects under review. And I guess I was asking, what are the causes that created the need for the projects on Riva Row in particular, and Lake Woodlands building expansion and the Hindu on Woodlands expansion? What caused these projects to happen, and what's the impact to the cost on MUD 46, if any?
You probably help us.
What causes the project then? Is that the question?
Causes, yeah.
Yeah, if the owner wants to expand the building, or the property owner has.
Want to expand it.
Has a need.
Okay.
So it may affect MUD 46 in that you may get some inspection fees, maybe a new tap, or maybe a fire line or something like that.
Would they be reimbursing us for that?
No, we would be charging them.
We'd be charging them.
Yes.
Okay, fine. Okay, good. I guess that brings up the next question on new account activity, which is page 64 towards the bottom. Were there any concentration of locations for that 348 residences that were put online this month?
All over the world.
All over.
All over the woodland.
All over.
Then I don't need that. Okay, thank you very much. You've answered my questions.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to the next item. The trustees report. Do that.
Hang on. We have the wastewater, we have different style of communications. That's probably the vote.
Okay.
The discussion. I voted for. If you guys don't.
Is that phase two, option 9?
Yeah. And you know, what I did check in the report was, as we had our discussion, we were talking about 3 distinctive events buying the property, doing a study for the expansion of the, looking at the gravity fed lines versus the pumped lines. And then the section that, developing more mature cost estimates. And that's really what we voted on, those 3 options. And then additional monies or approvals will come following the study of those 3 options.
All right, let's move on. Item number 14, consider an act on the district's year-end customer communication information message. I passed out a sheet called the annual report tally sheet for MUD 46. The last meeting I asked for input and I got input, and what we have is 8 past accomplishments and 7 future endeavors. And what we need to do is we need to select 4 from each. And then John Geiger's here. He's the one doing it. He's got a template that he's working with, and he will be working on the semantics. I just put very brief statements on here, just for brevity. And between the 5 of us, we just need to select which 4 we want to put on our sheet there. So if you would just kind of circle which ones you want to do. And then we'll give those to John and let him make the decision there.
So I get 4 votes.
4 of each.
Or past or future.
4 past, 4 future, yes.
This number 5 in future,
Huh?
average tax rate dropped 3%. Did our tax rate drop that much?
I left blank, so I put that suggestion because I didn't have that information handy.
Okay.
So I don't know the answer to that.
You don't know where I came up with 3%.
John had the whole Woodlands at 3%, but I didn't know if we have that much.
I thought we were less. Yeah, because we denied 1/2 of the request and we reduced on the remaining half.
Compromise, yeah.
Yeah, we compromised at I think 50% if my memory
You were
is.
definitely less than 3.
Yeah, it's definitely less than 3, for sure.
Okay. You want to just, if you select that, just slash through the 3%?
Just a little over 2%. Where are you? Oh, I see, average tax rate drops.
Want these back with our accounts?
Yeah, just, I'll collect them and we'll. hand them
Yeah, I just put my name in the upper
Ron,
right.
did you want to add anything to the discussion? Okay.
I guess Tom, I did know. So this will go out as bill insert. It will be emailed. And then we'll also post to your webpage.
Excellent. Just a question for the board members. Would it be worth our while to have a small amount copied and hard copy to give to our constituents who may ask us questions? I'm just bringing it up. Or I could print it out on my own printer.
I don't care, why not? John, when we get done, we'll just send it out to the board.
You just have a QR code and people can take the picture and it'll send it to the website.
Even better. We got a better answer over here. We'll take a picture of it, save it, and we could distribute it by ourselves. That's fine. That's great. Thanks.
And one of the templates that John does send out has QR code in it.
Okay.
So you still need yours. Yes, John?
So I am counting the votes as it were, and
Yeah, you're gonna be the judge on it, yeah. So even we don't know yet.
I will need to do some communication, make sure we've got the wording just right.
Okay, yeah, well, and I think before I'll send it out to everyone, just to make sure that we tweak it.
And that's you.
You can, and I'll
You send it,
send it to Shelley,
if John sends it out.
send it to all 5 of us.
It might be best if but to hash out the wording between just 2 of us, and then when we feel good about it, then send it to the rest of the
Okay.
board and then.
Makes sense.
Sounds like a good plan. We can't go through a meeting without saying that word.
It'd be coming from Shelley. She knows how to do that.
All right. All right, let's go on. The attorney's report. Do you have anything?
I don't have much. I wanted to remind y'all that the Texas legislature is currently in session. On page 71 through 73 of your packet are a list of bills of interest that the AWVD put together. These just generally could relate to MUDs. This list is out of February 27th, and so there's been new bills introduced since then. One that is not on this list that is pretty interesting is House Bill 3820. And that one is the North Harris County Regional Water Authority would like to be removed from the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District. They want to continue pumping groundwater and they don't want to be part of the Subsidence District anymore. That one was just filed last week and I don't know much more about it yet. It's impossible to know which of these will be viable and which won't. And Fred and I spoke a little bit before the meeting. He pointed out a few bills in this list that he wanted me to explain a little bit more about and how they would
Mostly,
relate
yeah, the
to.
director's impact, which is HB 1793 and SB 797. Since it does address us as individual directors, I'd like to know if there's any impact that we should be aware of or concerned about.
Yes, and so in Bill 797, it wasn't in the summary that I got this morning from our 2 lobbyists in our firm who kind of gave me an update on the bills. And I Googled it and I couldn't find it either. So it may have died already. I don't know any more about 797. I couldn't find anything, but and it not being in our very long Excel sheet made me
Yeah.
think that.
Well, one of the concerns I've got is some of us are on village boards and there could possibly be some issues. I know at the Sterling Ridge Village level, some of the concerns about MUD 46 was brought out by residents of Carlton Woods. And I didn't think it was a place to have that discussion. I thought it was most applicable to the SJRA meetings or this meeting, not to the Sterling Ridge Village. I don't know if there are any other village cross-fertilization, for lack of a better phrase, between
Yeah.
MUD boards and the other villages. But would that be considered a conflict?
There are conflicts of interest currently. It mainly with developers in the district, but sometimes with the
Natural.
homeowners association as well. I think the way it's currently is that, you can still serve on a MUD board if you're on a homeowners association, but you may have to recuse yourself from certain votes. That really it all depends on how much you're compensated. So if you receive compensation for being on that HOA, most people don't. So those people don't usually have to recuse.
Sterling Ridge is not.
T-shirts once a year.
Yeah,
It's not an HOA.
yeah. So I'm not sure about,
Yeah, the village associations are separate and apart from an HOA, because I belong to an HOA and I also belong to the village Sterling Ridge, so.
and I would have to look at what it is currently. But I couldn't find anything about that bill. So I think that it may have already died. But if we find out more about it, I'll definitely let you know. And then you also asked about House Bill 1793.
Correct.
Where's that?
That's on the bottom here,
Um,
second from the
director
bottom.
Qualifications. So this isn't going to affect MUD 46. Currently, to be qualified to be a MUD director, you have to either own land in the district or be a registered voter
Correct.
in the district. This bill would change it to where you have to own land in the district,
Okay.
which on most of our MUD boards,
All right.
everyone.
And the issue on the bonds, a different,
The bonds, I looked into this a little bit more. If you go up to the bond section, House Bill 187.
got it.
This one would require all bond elections to be held on the November uniform election date. Currently, they can be held in May and November.
I know.
So change it to just be November. House Bill 719, so the Attorney General assesses a fee when they review bonds. And this would increase the fee that they're allowed to impose from $9,500 to up to $50,000. And it would shift additional funds received to sexual assault programs. So I don't know much more about that one, but it's basically raising the amount that the Attorney General can charge for its review.
I was focused more on 2784.
Okay, so 2784, that one, this one is probably the most important, the most significant one.
Correct.
The issuance of MUD bonds paid wholly or partially from ad valorem taxes must receive 2/3 majority approval of voters. So it would require every time you issue bonds, you would have to conduct an election, which you don't currently do. You just get authorization, and y'all's authorization is very old right now, but you do an election to get bond authorization from the voters, and that's a large amount of money, and then you issue bonds from that authorization until you run out, and then you have to go get more authorization. This would require, for each time you issue bonds, you would have to get a 2/3 majority approval from the voters.
How would you recommend for us to proceed forward for future bond offerings to, I'm gonna use the wrong word, circumvent or avoid the process?
Don't issue bonds.
Don't issue bonds, of course, would be the easiest way, but would it be best to look at a giant request for money over a 10-year period and draw from that to get that approved first? Or should we do it item by item by item, which seems to be an awful lot of work?
I'm not one of the lobbyists at my firm. I'm sure that they are fighting very hard for this bill to not pass.
Right.
It would drastically change everything for the MUDs. It also has a second part to it that I hadn't mentioned. It would prohibit a MUD from issuing bonds payable from taxes if the MUD has current outstanding bonds payable from taxes, which every single
Everyone does.
MUD does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is an interesting bill. I would be really surprised if it makes it very far. It doesn't make very
Okay.
much sense.
As it moves forward, we'll be updated and Brian will do that for us.
Definitely.
Good.
As they go on, there still new bills are being filed, but eventually they'll all be submitted and they'll start to come off the list too.
So deadline's March the 10th.
Yes. Oh. Bill filing, okay, it is. So I guess they have all been filed as of March 10th. I thought they had a little bit more time, but
So what about 1312? Board meetings? Will that have an impact on us?
oh, I think that one is just that, you would not be able to have, meetings more than 5 miles outside of the district. At a location more than 5 miles outside of your district.
So our district's kind of distributed.
Yeah,
So
this would affect, I would have a feeling this is another one of the bills that is, everyone is fighting very hard to get rid of it. A lot of our districts that we work on, they all meet at our office actually. So I'd say most that my firm has don't meet in the district and y'all don't meet in your district. So it would affect, a ton of MUDs if it were to.
Okay. Dead on arrival? All right. Anything else? Any questions? All right, move on to item number 16. Do we need a closed session?
You do not.
All right. So we can skip 17. Let's go to item 18, discuss matters for future placement? Do we need to put a receiver report for the One Water Task Force or anything close to that?
I think it's premature, although once it gets up and running, we'll certainly include that in the general manager report. So, I don't know, it's a little premature at the moment.
The reason I ask, it's an eventuality that we're gonna have another storm event that people get flooded. And if we can show that we tried to talk about it, but didn't, for lack of participation or something, might help us out, but that's a discussion over a survey. So, all right, anything else?
You know, one comment is Mud 386, when they got flooded bad during Harvey, and their board was really active in resident meetings.
You bet.
I mean, it was here, Jim Simpson did most of the work, you know, interfacing with the residents. In 386, you know, they did it themselves. So potentially, you know, it could be, you had a massive flood that affected the lower part of our district.
District, yeah. Well, I'm just wondering if there's not a whole lot, I think, that we can do. We don't have the funding to do massive projects like that, but we can talk about it. Or at least try to talk about
I
it.
understand what can be done.
I'm just saying, you take Senator Bettencourt. When they had the big floods in Harris County, he actually got a table and, got the agencies to help people. And so I guess if you have a thought about if we had a massive flood, that, you can act as a coordinating organization, coordinating committee, you can call it that, to help bring in, state, federal, county aid. That's what Bettencourt basically did,
Well, why don't we just keep it on the back of our minds, and maybe next month or the month after that, we'll put it on the agenda.
Should we add the Lone Star, like a report on Lone Star, what they're doing and their activities?
Great idea.
Yeah.
Better for everyone.
And I have another item, but I want to make sure you have got to reply. Fred asked for the River Authority to give us a summary of all legal expenses.
Correct.
And I haven't seen that yet.
Nor have I.
And I can say Ed had committed to provide that prior to this meeting. So I think we need to put as agenda item a review of all legal expenses, from the non-payment suits that are going on that SJRA had paid for.
And I wrote
Yeah, do you want to put this on the agenda for next month? Or do you want to?
good idea. We could put the bond report that Maureen put together from the conversation we had. This is something that both David and I talked about, and to some degree George and I talked about. And I think it's worth us to fully understand the financial condition of 46 and our liabilities going forward. And I think it would be very helpful to us. And it'll probably help us on one or two of those bills that we just talked about by Katie, so. But there was an email that I sent to Ed specifically, and I may have it in my bag here. And I could resurrect it and give it to Shelley to add to the report.
How would you title that? Just a review of the bond report?
I'm gonna make it's the SJRA legal expense distribution, and also it talked about the amount of debt by corporations and municipalities for non-payment. Now, we have a pretty good handle on the aggregate amount and even some detail on like Quadvest and others, but we don't have it broken down the way I suggested in my email. And Ed said it would not be an easy project, but he said he could do it.
Can Ed put that in our report, in the SJRA report, or does it have to be in closed session?
Sure. Read a lot of the legal
Okay.
updates that go on, but I did type a note as we were talking about it.
I think Ed can schedule an open session or a closed session based upon, how they want to share.
Right.
Yeah, you can only go into closed session for a couple of very specific reasons. And I mean, if it's related to
And
confidential information about an ongoing lawsuit that
That-
you think is
he has to
relevant,
define
then,
whether this is or not,
yeah.
the way I look at it.
Okay. And Eric, how about that litigation with Tachus? Can we discuss that in open meeting or?
Sure, I can give you a quick update. We are at the finish line. There's about 3 lines of verbiage that we're contemplating with our legal team, and
Okay.
we believe that we'll have that completed here very soon.
Okay, can
We
you,
have one toe on the finish line.
can you include that next month's,
Sure.
if it's ready?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
Shall you copy all that?
And that-
Okay.
By the way, that is in the
The
general.
settlement agreement itself is confidential though. The document is not.
Very good. Okay. Last item is something that we all like. I need a motion. Second? All those in favor?
I-
Okay, we are adjourned.